What up, y'all? Welcome to episode 5 of Indy-Analysis. I'm your co-host, Jonathan Fridline.
And I am Alan J. Pandian, and today we're talking about the Boston Celtics.
The Boston Celtics. You gotta say it with the
Boston.
accent. Boston. The Boston Celtics, who, and just I want everyone to know, I appropriately lit my room green for the
Yes, we appreciate
occasion. Shout out
we
to Alan
appreciate
with that
that.
idea. That was actually
Yeah.
Alan's idea. Shout out to my co-host there. The Boston Celtics, a team that hopefully is fresh in everyone's brains because they won the East in the finals, but lost to the Warriors. Hopefully, everyone remembers that. They had
Yes,
a
hopefully.
very successful regular season, 51-31, which was good enough for second in the East. Let's talk a little bit about their primary rotation.
Yep.
So I would say this is an example of a team that is top heavy, to put it. That's
Yeah,
kind of a
we
baseball
can say
term,
that. Yeah.
but like top heavy meaning they have a really good starting lineup. Then everything after that's kind of subpar. But they
Yep.
have Marcus Smart at the one, and then two very young dynamic scorers, and Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. And they got an aging but still good Al Horford, veteran presence, and they got Robert Williams III at center, someone who's really making a name for himself. I'm a personal fan of him.
Yep.
And then coming off the bench, you got players like Peyton Pritchard, who's a serviceable point guard, Derek White, who can good perimeter defender, and then you got Aaron Naismith, Grant Williams, Daniel Tice. What? Not Daniel Tice anymore, but
Yeah.
this is last
We'll
season.
get to that. We'll get to
This
that. Yeah,
yeah,
for
this is
sure.
last season.
Yeah, so going with that roster, one thing I found really interesting in with the Celtics is that normally you see NBA teams like, let's say, the Warriors, that like in the regular season they have certain stats, but in the postseason they either up those stats or those stats go way down. So the Celtics though, they're really in line with the stats. So you look at the stats, they were pretty much middle of the road in like field goal percentage, points per game, 3-point percentage, and they're bottom five in the league. They're 25th in bench points per game, and you could see this in the Warriors series, especially where um, they at times, like let's say in game one and like game three, they were able to score and keep pace with the Warriors and pretty much like outscore them at in the fourth quarters. And their bench scoring, it was good, but not like insane. Game one, it was really good. They had Derek White and Al Horford step up big time, but the scoring
Yeah.
was pretty above average. But as you saw throughout the other games where they lost, their scoring kind of died down to be more mediocre, and they could not keep up with the Warriors. And
Mm-hmm.
their bench scoring took a huge decrease in that series. And in addition to that, you can also talk about their defense. The Celtics, we saw throughout the playoffs, they're one of the best defensive teams in the NBA, and this is due to their incredible versatility. You have Robert
Yes.
Williams, who anchors the defense. He probably might be a DPOY candidate in the future. He is an incredible shot blocker. He is a great help side defender, and he can stick with perimeter players decently. Not great, not like a Giannis obviously, but he's not terrible. And then Marcus Smart,
The current
the
DPOY.
the current DPOI, who's like he's a very physical defender. He can guard one through three, and maybe in some bigs. He's very strong. He's very physical. His tenacity is incredible, and
Mm-hmm.
obviously that's why he won the Defensive Player of the Year. Jaylen Brown
Yeah.
and Jason Tatum, both very athletic defenders who can guard multiple positions. And Al Horford, who's an underrated defender, he can guard multiple positions as well. Off the bench, you have Derek White, who's a great perimeter defender. Grant Williams, who's a pretty decent defender as well. And Aaron Nesmith, Peyton Pritchard, they're all good defenders for their position. And Daniel Tice is
Yeah.
also a pretty nice defender. So, top to bottom, this team doesn't really have any defensive liabilities. And we saw that throughout the playoffs, and I want to put this out, the Brooklyn series, where Kevin Durant shot his almost probably he probably played the worst series in his
That
career.
yeah, statistically that was his worst ever
Yeah,
series in his
for
career,
sure.
which is crazy.
He shot 38% from the field and averaged over 5 turnovers a game. But that's just a credit to the Celtics stifling defense. And
Yeah, that's
what
no
yeah,
coincidence.
and what I'm like super impressed by is Jason Tatum's commitment to the defensive side of the ball. We see like often like superstar players, they'll take a break on defense, but Tatum, he was asked to
Devin Booker.
guard. I wasn't going to say it, but he said it.
Hey, no names
Um,
will be named.
no
No,
names
I'll
will be
just clear my
named.
throat.
Yeah. So, but Tatum was asked to defend Kevin Durant, which is like almost impossible if you think about it. But he did a great job, and the Celtics as a team were able to converge on Kevin Durant and stop him from being as effective as he could be.
I
So,
think
yeah,
if I can add on to that,
yeah,
although you could make the case, hey, if the Bucks were healthy, then Milwaukee would have won that series,
hmm,
or if the Heat were healthy, they would have won.
yeah,
Uh, I that could be you could make the case that could be true, but the Celtics really took advantage of what was laid in front of
hmm,
them. They're like, hey, it's not our
for
fault that
sure.
you're injured. We're gonna make the
Yeah,
most of
for
it,
sure.
and a lot of their a lot of their credit to their championship run is anchored by this defense. People say defense wins championships, and that's not just a coach, yelling at 10-year-old you to play defense.
Yeah,
No, it's true.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, for
Like,
sure.
so
Yeah.
I think that's definitely a big separator. Good
Hmm.
good versus great, good team versus a great team, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And the Celtics want to be great. Number two defensive rating in the league,
Great
great. So
foundation. Yeah, great
yeah.
foundation for sure. And though their defense is great and their offense could use a lot of work. And what we both saw from this playoffs and this season is that they don't really have a true point guard. They have Marcus Smart, who is a great defender, like we said, but he's a below average shooter and he's not really a facilitator or
I was gonna say,
floor,
yeah.
yeah, a
That's not
floor
really
general.
his that's not really his like natural position.
Yeah, for sure. So, lack of a clear facilitator. So when we saw him against the Warriors, when the offense ran amok, they would just kind of give it to Tatum or Jaylen Brown and try to let them ISO for a score, which it worked. It sometimes works because those two are fantastic players. But to run an efficient offense in the half court,
Hmm.
I believe they need a true point guard, and
And to
Marcus Smart
win,
just isn't that.
yeah, and to win
Yeah,
in a 7-game series against a team that has a good, like a Phoenix Suns team, a Golden State Warriors team, you
for
got to be
sure.
able to have that facilitator be like, hey, get the ball, set us up, let's get a bucket.
And one last thing, they didn't really have a true three-point shooter. They had Grant Williams, who shot 41% from three, and he was their only real knockdown shooter. Tatum,
Yeah, that's
obviously
it.
Tatum, yeah, obviously Tatum is he's a good shooter, but he's not as consistent or he's not a super reliable spot up guy. And then Jaylen Brown, same with him.
Same
So they,
case.
yeah, so they could definitely use some more shooting with, especially with Marcus Smart not being a great shooter and Derek White not being a great shooter. They could definitely use some more perimeter scoring like that.
In terms of scoring, this is their really only shortcoming because they got
Yeah,
players in the post, Al Horford, Al Hor- Horford and
Robert
Robert
Williams.
Williams,
Yeah,
but and then you obviously got these dynamic Jalen Brown, Jason Tatum.
yeah.
But like we say this, I feel like I say this in every single episode. The way the league's going,
Hmm.
teams are putting up, you know, like sometimes 33 pointers a game. You got to
Yeah,
have kind of more than one really like knockdown 3-pointer shooters.
yeah, yeah. Especially in your starting lineup, I would say, because Grant Williams, he's not a starting quality player at this
Mm,
point in his career.
yeah.
So, in your
Hmm.
starting lineup, preferably a guard who can just spot up, shoot, and maybe even play some good defense to fit in that system even better. Moving on to their offseason talk, we looked at their salaries, and they didn't really have any big issues. Tatum's coming up. If he makes the All NBA team this year, then which he probably will, he'd be up for a supermax contract, which they will probably sign him to because it's Jason Tatum. And the only thing I would say is Al Horford's contract because he's making 27 million, but it's an expiring contract, so they'll probably extend him for a cheaper contract at the end of the season or in the middle of the
Hmm.
season. So that's not a big deal. And for free agency, they signed Danilo Gallinari from the Spurs, and that like we just talked about three-point shooting. That is like
That is what they needed. Like that,
exactly,
that
exactly, yeah. So
space the floor. Mm.
he's tall. He's not the best defender, but he's tall. He can get rebounds. He can
They have defenders
obviously.
to spare.
Yeah, they 100% they do. So, and they re-signed a bunch of other players that they're not really worth mentioning. Let's get to the trade. The Celtics got their guy. All the analysts and everybody said they should try to get this guy, and
And they got him.
They got this guy for a bag of chips, literally. Pretty. So the
I'm
Celtics
so
get.
happy you said that. A bag of little chips, Lay's, salt and vinegar chips.
Salt
That's
and
it.
vinegar. No, salt and vinegar is pretty good actually.
You're
Maybe
right.
maybe just
How about sour cream and onion?
sour cream and onion. Yeah,
Because
I
it's
know.
green like the Celtics.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry if we offended you with that. If you like sour cream and onion, they're not
Yeah,
terrible,
sorry, but
but it's the equivalent of
no.
this trade. So for the Pacers at least. So the Celtics got Malcolm Brogdon, and we'll get into that. But the Celtics gave up Aaron Nesmith, Daniel Tice, Nick Stauskas, Malik Fitz, Jawan Morgan, and one first round pick for
First round
next
pick.
year. So you could call that a
First,
fleece. You could call that a finesse. I don't care. The Celtics are amazing at trades, I guess. So
Brad Stevens strikes again. They got
100%.
their guy, Malcolm Brogdon, someone you can give the ball to, facilitate the offense, set
Yeah.
him up, give Jason
Mhm.
Tatum the ball when he needs it, set up the offense, get these guys their shots, get these guys their buckets. And some might even say he could be an underrated scorer.
Malcolm Brogdon really reminds me of like a U type of player where
Oh,
he's a calming presence on the court. He can shoot the ball at an elite level. He's above a 40% 3-point shooter, which as we talked about, they need more shooting. Above 40%. He's above 90% free throw shooter. He's a 50-40-90 guy. So he can shoot the lights
very
out.
efficient.
And he's a very solid playmaker. He's not maybe at the Chris Paul, LeBron James, Luka Doncic level, but he's a very solid playmaker. He's a great point guard, and he can put the ball in the basket, which is what the Celtics need. With Tatum or Brown, or if they're not having an off night and the offense bucks down, they can give the ball to Malcolm Brogdon. He can create his own shot, and he can facilitate, and he can defend at a high level. So he's pretty much like it's hard to get a more perfect fit for Boston than Malcolm Brogdon at point
Really,
guard.
yeah.
So that may have been the trade of the offseason for the they that may have
Oh,
been the trade
yeah.
of the offseason. Um so this next trade, it's very unlikely now at this point in history, but um maybe acquire KD.
I mean, why not at this point?
Why not try? The only thing I'll say about this, if you try to get Kevin Durant and you don't get him, you kind of ruin that relationship with Jaylen Brown and whoever else you're trading, that if they still remain on the team. Like Jaylen Brown's been in trade rumors almost every year of his career, and Kevin Durant it's Kevin Durant. So it's just like
Enough
why
said.
not try to get him? So what we would say is that Boston gets Kevin Durant and Brooklyn gets Jaylen Brown, Marcus Smart, Peyton Pritchard, and at least around 2 or 3 first round picks maybe. So if Brooklyn doesn't accept this deal, I don't think there's another deal that they could genuinely say yes to, because this
Yeah.
deal is probably the best you're gonna get from any team.
But
So
honestly, yeah, like you said, at this point in time, do they want to risk messing up what they have?
hmm yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I don't know.
So I don't
Let's
know.
let's
It's
call Brad up, see what he's thinking.
yeah. Brad, if you're listening to this, just hit us up and let us know what you're thinking.
Brad,
We can
leave your thoughts in the comments below, okay? I'm
for sure.
trusting you.
Yep. Yep. That just about does
That
it. We
just
cannot
about
talk
does it.
for Boston. As you can see, it was a shorter episode because the Celtics are already such a good team. They're just like the Bucks, where they don't have many flaws, and there's
Mm-hmm.
not too much to talk about. But they
We
are
try to
looking
keep
to
it short.
compete. Yep,
Yeah.
they're looking to compete next year, and if they somehow get Kevin Durant, they're probably the championship favorites in the league. So yeah, but that's unlikely. So they're still contenders, but not the favorites.
We'll see.
Yeah.
We shall see.
So
Can I
do
shout
you
out the
want to?
gram, Alan? Is that okay?
Yes, go.
Am I allowed to?
I was just about to
Hey,
ask you. So
go to Instagram. Type in the Pick and Roll Podcast _.
underscore. That was quick. That's a
Underscore.
wrap, though.
I tried to trip them up. I said it fast that time.
You said it fast,
Underscore.
but that's a wrap. That is a wrap.